The raging conflict in Ukraine has unleashed a major humanitarian crisis in the region. Over 1.7 million people have already fled the country in a span of just a couple of days, which, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency, it is the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. United Nations Security Council, meanwhile, held an emergency meeting on Monday. This was to address the growing crisis that is unfolding in the conflict-ridden region. Top UN officials briefed the Security Council on the efforts that the organization is putting in to assist people inside the country and everyone fleeing from the conflict. Now, during the meeting, United Nations Relief Chief Martin Griffiths said that places like Mariupol, Kharkiv, Melitopol are in a desperate need of aid, and that United Nations and its partners are working hard to provide food to hundreds of people through the World Food Programme.
We need safe passage for humanitarian supplies into areas of active hostilities. Civilians in places like Mariupol, Kharkiv, Melitopol and elsewhere desperately need aid, especially life-saving medical supplies, the kind that have been brought in these past days by WHO.
India, meanwhile, once again reiterated its call for immediate cessation of violence in Ukraine. India's ambassador to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, told the Security Council on Monday that India was concerned that a humanitarian corridor did not emerge for Indian students in Sumy, Ukraine, despite New Delhi's repeated request to both sides for a safe passage.
India has been consistent in calling for an immediate end to all hostilities. Our Prime Minister once again spoke to the leadership of both sides today and reiterated our call for immediate ceasefire and the need for both parties to return to the path of dialogue and diplomacy. We have also reiterated our urgent demand for safe and uninterrupted passage for all innocent civilians, including Indian nationals remaining in Ukraine. We are deeply concerned that despite our repeated urgings to both sides, the safe corridor for our students stranded in Sumy did not materialize.
As of 6th of March, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights reported at least 1,207 civilian casualties. The real figure could be way higher, owing that not all deaths are getting reported. The World Food Programme, meanwhile, has said that it is setting up a supply chain operation to deliver immediate food and cash assistance to 3.5 million people still inside Ukraine. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York. Let's listen in.
It's Europe's fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II, and the humanitarian situation in Ukraine has been deteriorating since February 24th, when Russia launched that military offensive against the country. On Monday, the United Nations Security Council met once again, this time to discuss the humanitarian situation in the country. Member states heard from UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffin, where he reminded everyone that the UN and its humanitarian efforts have been underway in eastern Ukraine since 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea. However, assistance has been multiplying in the last 2 weeks in the form of food, medicine, blankets, and other basic necessities due to the ongoing needs of the people inside of Ukraine. He also said that a UN team from his office had been sent to Moscow to better the humanitarian civil-military coordination. Member states also had the opportunity to hear from UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell, where she described in detail the dire effects that this war has had on children. The UN estimates that 1.7 million Ukrainians have fled the country due to the war. Half of them are children, many of them are unaccompanied minors. She also said that those left in the country are now facing life-threatening conditions. The plea from the international community on Monday was clear. It was a call for a sustained pause in violence, for the safe passage of humanitarian aid and assistance, and also safe access for civilians to be able to get these aids and cross the border when needed. The UN Security Council is expected to come up with a draft resolution exclusively regarding the humanitarian situation in Ukraine in the coming days. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.